Good morning, students. Today I am going to start with the chapter The End of Bipolarity. End of bipolarity means disintegration of Soviet Union gave an end to Cold War confronted and to ideological disputes between two superpowers. Military alliances had been abolished and demand for world peace and security arose. Now, tell me the students, why is the fall of Berlin Wall, this is the Berlin Wall, in 1989 treated as the end of the bipolarity? Listen one thing. Now, the Berlin Wall, this is the Berlin Wall, beta, which symbolizes the division between the capitalist and the communist world. Hence, its fall is considered as the end of the bipolarity, as it was the beginning of the end of the communist bloc, that is USSR. Next slide, please. Now, listen one thing, beta. Berlin Wall. Berlin Wall, the separation of Berlin Wall that began in 1945 after the collapse of Germany. Earlier, the Germany was divided between two, Eastern Germany and Western Germany. Eastern Germany headed by the Soviet bloc and the Western Germany headed by the USA, that is the capitalist bloc. And in between, the Berlin Wall was there. After Germany was divided into two parts, East Germany built the Berlin Wall to prevent its citizens from fleeing to the West. The wall physically divided the country into Eastern communist and the Western democracy. What I am going to say, Eastern and the Western. As all of you know that the world was, next slide, that the world was divided into two parts, US and USSR. US is headed by the liberal capitalist bloc and the USSR socialist, Soviet, socialist and the communist bloc. Now, Soviet system. Earlier in the 1917 revolution that opposed Soviet Union, totally opposed the capitalism. USSR came into being after the Russian Revolution 1917. And listen one thing, that is the most important thing, that USSR was totally against the capitalism. Biggest attempt, they abolished the, which are the main features, they totally abolished the private property. Primacy to the, they give the primacy to the state communist party, and fascist forces liberate the European countries and came under the control of the USSR. So the second world, the USSR now was headed by the, we know as second world countries. What we call it, next slide, second world countries, and this group of countries was called the second world or the socialist bloc. The Warsaw Pact, a military alliance, held them together. The USSR was the leader of the Warsaw Pact. Now listen one thing, USSR, as I'm talking, the leader of the Warsaw Pact. But on the other hand, when I'm going to compare with the capitalist economy, that is the USA, the NATO forces, NATO. USA, the military alliance is the NATO forces, and USSR's the military alliance is the Warsaw Pact. USA is the Western bloc, Western alliance, as well as on the other hand, the USSR is the Eastern alliance. The world was divided into two, US Eastern alliance as well as the Western alliance. But on the other hand, the third world countries, that is the NAM countries. Now, today, regarding with the Soviets versus the capitalist economy. Now, Soviet economy was the more developed economy except the US economy. It has a complex communication network, vast energy resources including oil, iron and steel, machinery, production, etc. And it had a domestic consumer industry that produced each and everything from pin to car, but that did not match that of the Western countries. The Soviet state ensured a minimum standard of living. Minimum standard of living means the standard of living for all citizens, and the government subsidized basic necessities including health, education, childcare and other welfare schemes. And the next point, there was no unemployment in the Soviet Union. The state ownership was the dominant form of ownership. Land and productive assets were owned and controlled by the Soviet state. Next slide. Now, Soviet system bureaucratic. Now listen one thing. The Soviet system became very bureaucratic and authoritarian, making life very difficult for its citizens. Authoritarian life making life very difficult for its citizens. In the Soviet system, there was a lack of democracy and the absence of freedom of speech, expression, and even you don't have the right to express your views through jokes and the cartoons. And most of the institutions of the Soviets needed reform. Only there was a one party system, that was a Communist Party. And listen one thing, the Communist Party that ruled Soviet Union over Soviet Union nearly about 70 years. Now, the Soviet Union, Communist part of the Soviet Union, had tight control over the institutions and was unaccountable to the people. The party refused to recognize the urge of the people in 15 different republics that formed the Soviet Union to manage their own affairs, including their cultural affairs. Although, on paper, Russia was one of the 15 republics that together constituted the USSR. In reality, Russia dominated everything and people from other regions felt neglected and often suppressed. In the arms race, the Soviet Union managed to match the US. Listen one thing, in the arms race only, the Soviet Union managed to match with US from time to time, but at great cost. So the Soviet Union lagged behind the power and technology in the West infrastructure and most importantly in fulfilling the political or economic aspirations of citizens. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 79 weakened the system even further. Though wages continued to grow, productivity and technology fell considerably behind that of the West. This led to the shortage in all consumer goods. Food imports increased every year. The Soviet economy was faltering in the state of 70s and became the stagnant economy. Next slide. Now, tell me, who is this? The Gorbachev. Beta, today we are going to compare Gorbachev with our Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Because Gorbachev wants quickly changes in Soviet Union as our Prime Minister wants quickly changes in India. He wants India as a digital economy system. Same way, Mikhail Gorbachev. Now, Mikhail Gorbachev, a new era foundation change began under Gorbachev in 1985. He was who had become the General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union in 1985, sought to reform this system. Reforms were necessary to keep the USSR abreast of the information and technology revolutions taking place in the West. Gorbachev's decision to normalize relations with the West. What he wants? To normalize relations with the West. Gorbachev's decision and democratize and reform the Soviet Union had some other effects that neither he nor anyone else intended to participate. The people in the East European countries, which were part of the Soviet bloc, started to protest against their own government and Soviet Union. So, in the past, the Soviet Union under Gorbachev did not intervene when the disturbances occurred and the communist regime collapsed one after the other. Now, listen one thing. Gorbachev said the perestroika. Perestroika means restructure the economy. Perestroika means restructure the economy, centering on a free market economy. But the economy stalled midway between the central planning and free marketing economy. On the other hand, he instituted glasnost and openness in society and politics, leading to more freedom of speech. Democratization of the Soviet state was begun. Free elections were held in 1989 for the first time since 1917. As I told you, after the 1917, only the one party rule was there, that was the Communist Party, that ruled over Soviet Union nearly 70 years. And the Communist Party is not answerable to the people. So meeting of the Congress were televised. Democratization encouraged demands for autonomy by non-Russian minorities. Gorbachev withdrew troops from Afghanistan and encouraged reforms in Eastern Europe, duplicating the Brezhnev doctrine. Next slide. Now, consequences of disintegration of the Soviet Union. Why did the Soviet Union disintegrate? Number one, the power relations in world politics changed. Now, everybody wants, is it be a unipolar world or it may be the multipolar world. Now tell me, now what type of the world is now? It is a unipolar or the multipolar? But in some sense, it is the multipolar, but hegemony of the America which shows the unipolar world. Now listen one thing, different countries or group of countries could become important players in the international system, thereby bringing in a multipolar system where no one power could dominate. As it turned out, the US became the sole power, backed by the power and prestige of the US. The capitalist economy was now the dominant economy system. International institutions like the World Bank, listen one thing, the most important thing, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund became powerful advisors to all those countries, since they give loans for their, listen, this is the important line, for those countries, they give loans for their transition to capitalism. It means they are not going to give the loans to, they were not going to give the loans to the communist countries, only the capitalist countries. And then the end of the Soviet bloc and the emergence of many new countries. All these countries had their own independence, aspirations and choices. Some of them, especially the Baltic and the East European states, wanted to join to the European Union and become the part of NATO. The Central Asian countries, listen thing, the Central Asian countries, they wanted to take advantage of their geographical location and continue their close ties with Russia and also to establish with the West, the US, China and others. Thus, the international system saw many new players emerge, has its own identity, interests and economic and political difficulties. It is to these issues that we now turn with the shock therapy. Shock therapy, that was transition from an authoritarian socialist system to a democratic capitalist system. The model of transition in Russia, Central Asia and East Europe that was influenced by the World Bank and IMF came to be known as shock therapy. Shock therapy varied in intensity and speed amongst the former second world countries, but its direction and features were quite similar. Now, regarding with the shock therapy, the external private farming, first the private farming, earlier there were in the Russia, the collective farming was there, which was now shifted to the private farming. Everything was private. Collective farms were to be replaced by private farming and capitalism in agriculture. This transition, listen, this transition ruled out and third way other than state controlled socialism or capitalism. Shock therapy also involved a drastic change in external orientation of these economies. Development was now envisaged through more trade and thus a sudden and complete switch to free trade was considered essential. The free trade regime and foreign direct investment were to be the main engines of change. So, this also involved the openness to foreign investment, financial opening up or deregulation and currency convertibility. Finally, what I am going to say, the transition also involved a breakup of the existing trade alliances among the countries of the Soviet bloc. Each state from this bloc was now linked directly to the West and not to each other in the region. So these states were thus to be gradually absorbed into the Western economic system. The Western capitalist states now became the leaders and thus guided and controlled the development of the regions through various agencies and organizations. Now, the consequences of the shock therapy. Number one, it did not lead the people into the promised utopia of mass consumption. Generally, it brought ruin to the economies and disaster upon the people of the entire region. In Russia, the large state-controlled industrial complex almost collapsed as about 90% of its industries were put up for sale to private individuals and companies. The restructuring was carried out through market forces, that is, the largest garage sale in history, as valuable industries were undervalued and sold at throwaway prices. Though all citizens were given vouchers to participate in the sales, most citizens sold their vouchers in the black market because they needed the money. The value of the ruble declined dramatically. The rate of inflation was so high that even people lost all their savings. The collective farm system disintegrated, leaving the people without food security, and Russia started to import food from the other countries of the world. The real GDP of Russia in 1999 was below that was in the year 1989. The old trading structure broke down with no alternative in its place. The old system of social welfare was systematically destroyed. The withdrawal of government subsidies pushed large sections of the people into poverty. The middle classes were pushed to the periphery of society, and the academic and intellectual manpower disintegrated or migrated. A mafia emerged in most of these countries and started controlling many economic activities. Now listen students, privatization led to new disparities. Post-Soviet states, especially Russia, were divided between rich and poor regions. Unlike the earlier system, there was now great economic inequality between the people. The system now they export of natural resources like oil, natural gas and minerals. Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Russia, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan are major oil and gas producers. Which are the oil and gas producers? Now Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Russia, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. So other countries have gained because of the oil pipelines that cross their territories from which they get rent. So some of manufacturing has restarted. Tensions and conflict. Now most of the former Soviet Union republics are prone to conflicts, and many have had civil wars and insurgencies. Complicating the picture is growing involvement of the outsiders. In Russia, two republics, Chechnya and Dagestan, have had violent secessionist movements. Moscow method to dealing with Chechen rebels and indiscriminate military bombing. Military bombing have led to many human rights violations but fails to the aspirations of independence. In Central Asia, listen one thing, Tajikistan witnessed a civil war. That is a very important question. Number of times this question came in the exams also. In Central Asia, Tajikistan witnessed a civil war that went on for 10 years till 2001. How many years? 10 years. In Tajikistan, the war ended in 2001. The region as a whole has many sectarian conflicts. Azerbaijan province of Nagorno-Karabakh Nagorno-Karabakh, some local Armenians want to succeed and join Armenia. In Georgia, the demand for independence has come from two provinces, resulting in a war. So there are movements against the existing regimes in Ukraine, Kyrgyzstan, and Georgia. All this led to the instability, making the difficult for the ordinary citizens. The Central Asian republics area with vast hydrocarbon resources. Again, this question came. Hydrocarbon. This is the most important. Hydrocarbon resources which have brought them economic benefit. Which resources brought them the economic benefits? That is the hydrocarbon resources. Central Asia has also become a zone of competition between outside powers and oil companies. So the region is next to Russia, China, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and close to West Asia. Listen the important thing. After 11th September 2001, what do you mean by 11th September 2001? It is 9/11 World Trade Center attack. After this, the US wanted military bases in the region and paid the government of all Central Asian states to hire bases and to allow airplanes to fly over their territory during the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Now tell me, did India allow this? No. We learned from history as East India Company came in our country and they ruled our country near about 200 years. So India even refused to America for their airplanes. However, Russia perceives these states as its near abroad and believes that they should be under Russian influence. In Eastern Europe, Czechoslovakia that split peacefully into two. Which two? So Czechoslovakia, listen one thing, split into two peacefully. That is Czechs and Slovaks forming independent countries. But the most severe conflict took place in Balkan republics of Yugoslavia. After 1991, it broke apart with several provinces like Croatia, Slovenia, and Bosnia declaring independence. Ethnic Serbs opposed this and massacre of non-Serb Bosnians followed. The NATO intervention, NATO means the Western Alliance headed by USA. The NATO intervention and the bombing of Yugoslavia followed the inter-ethnic civil war.
उसको क्लिक करो, कहीं पर भी इसको मत क्लिक करो.
Go to slide. Now, the last topic is India and post-communist countries. What type of the relations of India with the post-communist countries? Number one, India's relation with India's relation with the post-communist countries, but naturally India's relation with the post-communist countries was a very good relations, as all of you know. In the year 1971, when Indira Gandhi signed the Peace Friendship Treaty with Russia, 20 years friendship treaty with Russia, when Indira Gandhi signed. From this we show that there was good relations with Russia. India has maintained good relations with all the post-communist countries, even with China. So, but the strongest relations are still those between Russia and India. India's relation with Russia are an important aspect of India's foreign policy. Which was the most important aspect of the India's foreign policy? That was India's foreign relations with Russia. Indo-Russian relations are embedded in a history of trust and common interest and matched by popular interventions. Indian heroes, even the Raj Kapoor, Amitabh Bachchan, are household names in Russia. And many post-Soviet countries, one can hear even the Hindi film songs all over the region. And India is a part of popular memory. So Russia and India share a vision of multipolar. Earlier we discussed either it may be the unipolar world or it may be the multipolar. But now what is that? Multi. India and Russia. This is again share the multipolar world. Beta, these are the very important points. Multipolar world. What they mean by a multipolar world? Multipolar world order is the coexistence of several powers in the international system. Coexistence of several powers, not only of America, not the hegemony of America. What they want, the coexistence of several power, collective security, greater regionalism, negotiated settlement of international conflicts, and independent foreign policy for all countries, and decision making through bodies like the UN. They should be strengthened, democratized, and empowered. More than 80 bilateral agreements have been signed between India and Russia. How many agreements? More than 80 agreements that have been signed between India and Russia as part of listen one thing, part of Indo-Russian Strategic Agreement of 2001. Again, the very, very important thing, which is the part Indo-Russian Strategic Agreement of 2001. India stands to benefit from its relation with Russia on issues like Kashmir, energy suppliers, sharing information on international terrorism, access to Central Asian balancing, even its relations with China. So, Russia stands towards India. Russia stands to benefit from this relationship because India, listen one thing, India is the second largest arms market for Russia. Second largest arms market for Russia. The Indian military gets most of its hardware from Russia. From which country? Russia. Since India is an oil importing nation, Russia is an important to India and has repeatedly come to the assistance of India during its oil crisis. India is seeking to increase its energy imports from Russia and the republics of Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. Cooperation with these republics include partnerships and investment in oil fields. Russia is important. Now listen, Russia is important for India's nuclear energy plans. That is, India's space industry by giving, for example, the cryogenic rockets when India needed. When India needed the cryogenic rockets? In the Bangladesh war in 1971. Before that, Indira Gandhi signed the treaty with friendship treaty with Russia. Whenever they wanted the rockets, they want the cryogenic rocket when India needed. So Russia and India have collaborated on various scientific projects. That's all. Now listen all of you, the end of the bipolar world. Thanks.